Okay, welcome back to Woogie's Corner. And I might as well welcome myself back a little bit too because I've been gone for a couple of years. Doing the COVID thing, the life is what happens to us while we're making other plans thing. But anyway, I'm back and got some stories to tell. I love to tell history stories, people, place, things, songs, artists, machinery, whatever catches my eye. So we're going to just jump right in today, and we're going to do a little story about a great Canadian singer-songwriter and an icon in the Canadian folk scene and country, Mr. Ian Tyson. Well, Ian was born in Victoria, BC, raised around Duncan on a farm, did some rodeo riding in his early years, moved to Vancouver. He got a degree in arts in Vancouver. He was gigging around there, and the good old boys in Vancouver said, "Hey, son, you better get out of here because you're never going to make nothing here in Vancouver. You better." So he goes to Toronto, starts playing around there, and he runs across a young gal named Sylvia Fricker. So they started gigging, and meanwhile he got a job in Toronto as a commercial artist. Well, he's paying the bills anyway. They started touring around the area as Ian and Sylvia. And this would be about 1959. They got married in 63 after a few years. And at one point they were down in New York, and this is the story I want to get to because it's a good one. He's down in New York. I don't know what they were doing down there, but they had just decided to go down there to do some work in the Greenwich Village area because that was the place to be in the early 60s because that's where all the folkies went. There was all kinds of coffee bars and little clubs and bistros and stuff going on. There was lots of work. So anyway, he's down there, and there was a place there called the Brill Building. And I would love to have seen this building. It was something else again. I guess it was a big building, probably, I'm thinking about 4 stories high or so. But you could walk in there in the morning with a song in your hand and walk out the other door in the afternoon with a record in your hand. Everything was there. The recording studios, the producers, the engineers, the A&R guys, the record people, the producers, players, everybody hung out at the Brill Building. Okay, so he goes in there quite often, and he gets an agent, and and he's playing around down in New York, and they're billing him as a Canadian cowboy. He said, and years later, he said, "Well, I wasn't really at that point Canadian cowboy, but hey, if they can call me anything they want as long as they're paying me." Makes sense. So one day, he's in a bar that used to be frequented by the locals above this pool hall, I think it was. Anyway, he's sitting up there, and in walks Bob Dylan. Now, Bob Dylan was just starting to make a name for himself in the area. A few people knew who he was. And he had just recorded, I believe, How Does It Feel to Be On Your Own, like a Rolling Stone, which originally was called Rainy Day Woman, but that's another story. So anyway, he walks in, flops his guitar case on the table and says, "Hey, Ian, want to hear my new song?" Yeah, sure, Bob. So anyway, open the case, out pops the guitar. He sits down and he says, "I just wrote this." He said, "No, I haven't even recorded it yet. See what you think." The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Well, anyway, Ian was... the whole bar, everybody's looking at it. It's like, this brand new song. Nobody had ever heard this before. I thought, that's pretty cool. So he goes home and to his flat, and he gets thinking about this because Ian hadn't written anything to this point. He's just doing cover songs. He gets a hold of his manager and says, "I need a place to go and write some stuff. by myself. The manager said, well, you can use my place. I'm gone for a day or two. So anyway, he ends up at his manager's house. And so he's sitting there with a pen and a paper and goes, what am I going to write? Then he remembers Bob's song. He got, let's see. Wind. Yeah, I know something about wind. I grew up in Victoria. It blows over there. I know something about seas because there's sea around there. And so anyway, he sat down and got out the pencil and paper, and within a relatively short length of time, he come up with some melody, and then he finally ended up with 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All these things that what? That come what may. Anyway, so he goes back home and he's all excited. And Sylvia loves the thing. But he loved it even more the next day when he goes to the Brill building and he's sitting there and he walks in with this song in his hand. He runs into I can't remember whether it was one of the members of Peter, Paul, and Mary or their agent or somebody who was connected somehow. And in those days they had these rooms. Every room had a piano in it and a little table, and sometimes they'll have a little tape recorder in there or something. So all these songwriters would come into the building and they'd get a hold of somebody and they'd say, well, show me what you got. And into the room they'd go and play them what they got. So anyway, that's what he did. And well, anyway, fast forward here, whoever he played it for Peter, Paul, and Mary. They loved it. Man, they were all over that like ugly on an ape. Within a week, they had this thing recorded, and it was out on the radio. Well, Ian was ecstatic, especially when he got a check in the mail. Whoa! He's going, oh my goodness, I ain't getting paid for something I like to do. It can't get any better than that. So anyway, that was the start of this whole thing, and they ended up moving back to Alberta. He ended up getting into lots of touring and that. Him and Sylvia, they divorced in 1975. Very peaceful divorce. They always got along good after that. And he toured and played right up to 2006. But in about 1980, he got talked into becoming the cowboy, doing the cowboy music. And that's where Navajo Rug come from, and Someday Soon, and songs like that. So anyway, he did that right up until 2006, and then something happened. Not quite sure what it was, but he was doing a concert in some jamboree somewhere. And something happened to his voice. There's a catastrophic, irreparable damage to his vocal cords. Oh my goodness. I don't know what it was. I mean, maybe he was pushing too hard. Maybe there was something else involved. I mean, we just don't know. But then about a year later, he was on a plane to Denver and apparently picked up some kind of virus that got into his throat. Poor guy, he was a mess, and so he ended up having to change his style because his voice became very gruff and almost like Rod Stewart and stuff, and he had to really kind of change things around. But he did adapt, and he kept going. And he toured right up until just before he died. He died in 22, I believe. I think he toured right up till 18. Anyway, I'm going to do a little tribute, as I always do, a little musical ditty. And why not a musical tribute to the late, great Ian Tyson. The song will be, of course, 4 Strong Winds. 4 strong winds that blow, 7 seas that run high, all these things that don't change, come what may. If The good times have all gone, and I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. For a strong wind that blows on me. And if you're ever back this way, we'll see you. Hopefully, I'll be back this way next week. Willie's Corner. Thank you. Oh, hey, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hey, if you like it, one of these. You don't, one of those. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you'd like me to do. Any history ideas, any artist ideas. I really want to hear from you. Thank you. See you next time.